The United States is considering a ground invasion on Iran since the war started back in February with Israel, the United States versus Iran. Recently, if I'm not mistaken, Yemen joined in on the war with Iran. I think they struck Israel, used a missile or a few missiles to strike Israel. Now, the CENTCOM, former CENTCOM commander said that the United States, been preparing for this for years now. Now, it's possible that the United States do go in on the ground of Iran, and Iran has been saying it's going to be a lot of U.S. casualties if we do that. So we're gonna have to watch out because President Donald Trump did give Iran till last Friday for a deadline before the United States strike their power plants if they don't reach a deal. He extended that deadline. Now, maybe he's lying that there is even a negotiations talks going on with Iran at all, because he did say a few weeks ago that he don't see any reason to negotiate with Iran as we're literally obliterating the other side. Now we fast forward. Well, during that time, Iran was also saying there's no negotiation talks going on with the United States. The United States is negotiating with themselves. So it's kind of a he say she say situation going on here. But I'm kind of leaning on Iran's side because you can't really trust what the United States is fully saying in this war, because we did strike a girls school, all girls elementary school in the Middle East, and then said we didn't know nothing about the strike happening on the school, and then followed it up and said Iran is the one that attacked that school, and look who was killing their protesters. So it's kind of like a slap in Iran's face. And now Iran is talking about attacking our universities, and apparently the United States and Israel struck a university in Iran, one or two of them. So now we fast forward to Donald Trump again extending the deadline for Iran to make a deal and stuff like that. Told Iran that they need to get serious, but just previous days he said that the deals was going on good. So I feel like there's actually no peace talks going on with the United States and Iran. However, he's probably extending these deadlines until all the troops do get stationed or deployed in the Middle East. Now, recently, just a few days ago, 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg, that's like 2 hours away from me, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, has been stationed over in the Middle East. And I think Donald Trump is considering adding an additional 10,000 troops to the Middle East. So this is possibly, the United States is definitely getting ready for a ground invasion of Iran, which is going to cause a lot of U.S. casualties for our troops, and possibly could see more threats or high threats of terrorist attacks here in the United States. Now, the FBI did put out a few weeks ago that Iran allegedly was preparing or was thinking about doing drone strikes on U.S. main soil on the West Coast, particularly California. So that's a possibility, but they also kept in bluffing at the same time. Iran did say a few days ago that Iranians are ruthless and something else. So we gotta excuse me, we got to really watch out on what's going on in the Middle East, because this is getting serious. We've seen it in the gas prices. We've seen the price of oil is skyrocketing. Here where I live in North Carolina, is gas for regular is now $4 a gallon, with diesel approaching $6 a gallon. So this is not a war that we should be playing around with, lying, stuff like this. We need to get this war done, or the United States and Iran literally need to negotiate so the economy don't crash as bad as it's doing now, because literally these countries is literally suffering from it. Let's say countries that's not even involving themselves with this war, they still paying for it as the price of oil and stuff goes higher and higher and higher. We know the Strait of Hormuz is closed in the Middle East. Iran already saying they're not opening it. I think they're allowing a few ships through, but I doubt they're letting American ships through or Israeli ships and stuff like that through the Middle East as this conflict on goes. And I guess if we try to go through it, we will be struck by the Iranians. So President Donald Trump said the United States already took out, and Israel took out, most of Iran's military, or all of the military. Now, I kind of find that hard to believe, because you're still thinking about going in on the ground of Iran. And Iran is basically saying they got something for the United States if we invade their country. So this is going to be an interesting war. I highly think that there's going to be a ground invasion by the United States on Iran. President Donald Trump is just constantly extending this alleged peace deal deadline for Iran, as he say it's going so well, just turn around hours or a few days later saying that they need to get serious in this deal, while Iran is saying there's no deal going on. I'm pretty sure he's waiting till all the troops is over in the Middle East, and then we go ahead and go in underground Iran and go ahead and do what we got to do to Iran. So there is an article I'm finna read to you guys by NBC News. So Hope you guys enjoy this article. But yeah, this is just a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East, and we could potentially see higher risk of higher threats of terrorist attacks or cyber attacks here in the United States. We know Vladimir Zelensky did say Russia been taking satellite pictures and giving it to Iran for, I guess, where our bases and stuff is every day to Iran. So it's possible. We know Russia already said during like the first or second week of the war that they do have intelligence that was going to help Iran with where our troops is in the Middle East. So that is a big possibility. If you guys haven't seen, a United States Air Force AWACS plane was hit by the Iranians and took that radar clean off that plane. If you guys don't know what an AWACS plane looked like, you guys need to look it up by the United States. And you guys can also look up the latest strike that happened on one of those over there in the Middle East. You can clearly see that it was intentional. The target that plane, because you targeted mainly the middle to the back of it where the radar is on the plane. So clearly Iran is not playing with us. They already tried to launch a missile at Diego Garcia and they didn't succeed, but it just shows you Iran is not playing with the United States. This is not like Venezuela where you attack their country, go into their country, take their president, President Nick Maduro and his wife, fly them out to New York. They pleaded not guilty and still to this day they're both still jailed in New York. This is not like Venezuela. Even last year when we struck Iran, it was like a 12-day war or something like that. But now we're over a month into this war with Iran, and this is still escalating to the point that the United States is still considering a ground invasion or preparing for a ground invasion of Iran. And Iran, it keeps saying that this is not going to be a good idea if the United States go underground their country. They're basically saying they got something for our troops. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this article. Don't want to hold you guys too long. I'm already 6 minutes into this video, but this is a serious conflict that's going on in the Middle East, which the whole world is suffering. We see it in our gas and stuff like that, and the United States and Israel, but mainly the United States is at a higher threat, especially if we go on the ground of Iran for terrorist attacks, cyber attacks, and other type of attacks here in the United States. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this article. So this article is being reported by NBC News. Again, this article is being reported by NBC News, and it say Trump threatens Iran energy and water if deal isn't reached soon. Tehran calls U.S. plan unrealistic. Again, Trump threatens Iran's energy and water if deal isn't reached soon. Tehran calls U.S. plan unrealistic. So we go down here, the article go ahead and reads, and we go ahead and exit that ad. There we go. What to know. Trump threatens Iran's water and energy. President Donald Trump threatened to the destruction of Iran's civilian energy and water infrastructure if a deal to end the war and reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz is not reached soon. Great progress has been made in talks, he claimed. Again, he claimed, because people already know. So some people might believe it, but a good amount of people is not believing that there's actually peace talks going on with the United States. Clearly, after President Donald Trump said just the other day he don't see any reason to negotiate with Iran, as we're literally obliterating the other side. Those was his words. So maybe he's going to say this is AI, because he did do a Truth Social post a week or two ago saying everything come from from Iran is clearly AI. It's not true and stuff like that. And he also bashing other news channels. So as we go into this article, though Iran said U.S. proposals were unrealistic and unreasonable. And then it go down here and say Trump wants Iran's oil. Trump said earlier that his preference will be to take the oil in Iran, and he is considering seizing its crucial Karg Island export hub. Iran warned it is ready and waiting for a ground invasion as thousands more U.S. troops arrived in the region. Again, Trump earlier said his preference would be to take the oil in Iran, and that he is considering seizing its crucial Karg Island export. Iran warned it is ready and waiting for a ground invasion as thousands more U.S. troops arrived in the region. Now, President Donald Trump did say we took out most of Iran's military and all that other stuff. That's what he said. Now, I don't think that's really true, because Iran is clearly saying they're waiting. Now, either they're going to have a surprise for our troops over there, or the minute we go on the ground of Iran, we could possibly see massive terrorist attacks go on here in the United States, on U.S. soil, and that's pretty possible because most people is already starting spring break or on spring break, so it's gonna be larger crowds and stuff like that. Concerts, sport events, people traveling and stuff, and going to different events. Now we could see terrorist attacks here. We could see cyber attacks on our banks, on our gas, on our infrastructure and stuff like that. So it's a possibility that we could see the effects of a potential U.S. invasion on Iran. We can also feel it here in the United States because we know Iran is definitely out to get us because of the attack on the girls' school and the fact that the United States clearly lied about it multiple times and blamed Iran for this situation. Now, apparently, the United States was saying help was on its way for Iran as strikes, not strikes, as they was killing their protesters. I mean, what sense did that make for us to attack a school? And allegedly, we attacked the university just the other day in Iran. That's not really helping the further regime change. You're clearly targeting civilians in this attack, and that's not really, that's not really making sense here. Oil prices rise. Oil was around $115 a barrel this morning, up nearly 60% from the start of the war a month ago, and the highest level since the conflict started. Again, prices rise. Oil was around $115 a barrel this morning, up nearly 60% from the start of the war a month ago, and the highest level since the conflict started. We go down here. It also says Israel expands Lebanon invasion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his military will widen its ground campaign in southern Lebanon. Israel says it wants a security zone to halt the threat from Iranian-backed Hezbollah, but it's intensifying operations as raised fears that the area could face a similar fate to Gaza. And then we go down to the death toll. More than 30,000 people have been killed across the Middle East as the war enters its fifth week in Iran. Israel and American strikes have killed more than 1,900 people. Again, Israeli and American strikes have killed more than 1,900 people. According to the country's deputy health minister, at least 1,200 people has been killed in Lebanon. Again, at least 1,200 people have been killed in Lebanon, and 18 have died in Israel. 13 U.S. service members has been killed, and 2 more died of non-combat causes. So non-combat causes, kind of interesting there. So I personally don't believe that there is peace still going on, any negotiation talks going on with Iran. Iran probably is right. The United States is negotiating with themselves. This is all probably a distraction to throw Iran and stuff off and these other countries off, as we clearly is preparing for a ground invasion. If talks is going so well, why is we sending thousands of troops and potentially 10,000 troops to the Middle East, and more is arriving for as negotiation talks and stuff is going on, and we're striking allegedly universities. So that's not making sense. And you clearly said the other day you don't see any a few weeks ago seeing any peace talks going on with Iran. So it's not making sense. It's clearly a sign that the United States is trying to go after, do a ground invasion and seize Karg Island in Iran. Well, a ground invasion of Iran. So it's possible, again, we could see the effects over here. We're already seeing it in our gas prices, and the economy is suffering for most of these countries, a lot of these countries. So with that being said, you got to keep an eye out on Russia, make sure they don't do anything crazy to Ukraine just to get back at the United States and NATO. But we know, we're focusing on Iran so much. You don't really hear too much aid or missiles and stuff like that going to Ukraine to help defend themselves against their enemy who started a war with them back in 2022, which allegedly President Donald Trump said he was going to have that war ended in 24 hours. And look, we are currently in March 30th, 2026, and the war started back in February 2022 with Russia and Ukraine, and we're still dealing with this war to this day, and a potential invasion or attack on Taiwan by the Chinese. So with that being said, oh, and we can't forget South Korea and North Korea have been having their issues too. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Comment down below if you think that the United States is going to go in on Iran. I personally think this will happen. I don't think there's no peace talk. I don't think there's peace talks going on. I don't believe that one bit. So with that being said, I don't buy it at all. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's your boy Rundy right here. Out.